And welcome to a new episode of A Dog Soul. I'm Anita, I'm your host and a professional dog trainer, and today we're gonna talk about desensitizing and counter-conditioning. What's that and how can it help you? So stay tuned and have fun. Hi again! So, those are two things that are very often used and not always on purpose. What do I mean with that? Well, especially with desensitizing, it sometimes just happens. It's like you have a new puppy or a new dog who has been on the streets his former life or something like that. So this dog doesn't know a harness or a muzzle. And of course, first you start training very positively and with a lot of treats and praise, and the new thing is supposed to be something great for your dog. But then comes a phase where this new thing should become irrelevant. And that's the desensitization part of the training. Or it's not really training. Well, it is, but it's not always on purpose. So what we do is, as soon as we have the thing on the dog and he's comfortable putting it on, we start doing nice things. So we keep the mind busy so the dog is not thinking about the new harness or the new muzzle on his body. And that's desensitization. So the new item becomes irrelevant. And the same thing happens when we try to get the dog used to different sounds, for example. Like if we are living next to some kind of noise, like a street, a busy street, what happens is very quickly we start blocking out the sounds of the cars because we're getting used to them and they are not relevant to us. And the same happens for the dog. Sometimes we want that because we don't want our dogs barking at every sound that comes by the window or the door. And of course, we don't want our dog afraid of some sounds like 4th of July or New Year's Eve. The difficult thing with desensitizing is that if it's not done correctly and very carefully, it can have the exact opposite effect. So we sensitize the dog to a specific sound, for example, and that will make the dog more afraid. That happens when we try to increase the difficulty too fast. So let's stick with the sound. We turn up the volume too fast if we're playing it for the dog. So for the dog, it's like, oh, there's a sound, doesn't matter. Oh, there's a sound, doesn't matter. Oh my God, there is a sound! Something like that. So if we make the steps too big, we can startle the dog, and then he will be very aware of this sound and he will notice it very quickly, and it will trigger the fear response earlier and earlier and earlier. And of course, we don't want the exact opposite. That's why desensitizing should always be monitored by a pro, like a dog trainer, a behaviorist, or somebody like that. And it's very similar with counter-conditioning. Counter-conditioning is a great tool to change a negative emotion to a positive one. Again, I'm using the encounter example because it's just my specialty. I love training dogs to be comfortable on the leash when they meet other dogs. So we're using that again. Let's say we have a dog who gets a little anxious when he sees other dogs while he's on leash, and as soon as the other dog comes too close, he starts growling, barking, lunging, and all those things we don't want. That's because he has never learned what he could do instead of that. And that's where we come in with our counter-conditioning. The first step with training the reactive dog, except for, of course, building up an environment where the stress level is low and something like that. But as soon as we train on the encounter, we have to change the emotion the other dog triggers in our dog. So whenever our dog sees another dog, he's not going like, oh my God, there's another dog, help, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because we changed that to, hey, there's another dog. Something nice will happen with mommy. And that's counter-conditioning. We take an emotion that's not very comfortable and we change it to something nice. Of course, with this technique as well as with desensitizing, we have to be very, very careful. So we have to make baby steps and never overwhelm our dog. Because as soon as our dog is no longer comfortable, he cannot learn a nice emotion, because overwhelm doesn't go well with positive emotions. And of course, with desensitizing, it's the same. If we want something to be irrelevant, it cannot be frightening or overwhelming. And that's exactly why those things are so extremely tricky. And that's why I would always recommend taking the training to somebody who really knows what he's doing. And whenever you see a dog who is afraid of a hand, for example, desensitizing would look like something like a target. First a look target and then a hand target. So some body part touches the hand. But it's always only movement from the dog, never from the hand. So a dog who is afraid of a hand cannot be touched while calling that desensitizing. It's not possible because the dog is already afraid, so the stimulus cannot be irrelevant. It's like if you're afraid of spiders and you walk into a room where you see in the distant corner a spider, and somebody closes the door behind you and pushes you closer and closer and closer to the spider. You will not learn that this spider is irrelevant. Your fear will grow with every step you take. So this is something very important. And it really pains me to see dogs who are pushed into contact with humans, because we want the dog to experience contact with us and closeness to us as something really nice. And of course, this can never happen when the dog is forced into contact or into closeness. It has to come from him. Of course, if you have a dog who's totally fine with getting pet and touched and snuggled, then you can start a cuddling session. But always ask your dog if he's comfortable with it. Do your petting, take your hand away after a few seconds, and wait a few seconds. See how the dog reacts. If he comes to you, if he looks at you expectantly, or if he nudges you with his little nose, then of course you can continue. But if he doesn't, maybe it's not his time of the day. Doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It's just not the right timing. And of course, if you want to start training with your dog to be comfortable on the leash while meeting another dog, then check out my course on leash reactivity. It's in the description. You just have to click on it and you get all the information. If you have any questions about the course or about anything else, just write me an email. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can or refer you to somebody who can. Have a lot of fun training and cuddling and all those nice things. See you next time. Bye.